How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Blue Shifting. Welcome back to the second half of, like, I guess the really intense chapter where we've done it. Like someone said before, it's a little unfortunate we broke it up, but it makes a lot of sense. Honestly, I agreed. I don't think I could have done much more at the time, but here we are. He's taken out the uncle, but he's left him laying in the woods. He's left a lot of evidence behind, including the family shovel in the hole he dug. He was most likely seen, even if he wasn't like clearly observed, by people at the school where he would have picked up the bat. And while he rode the motorcycle as he tried to get rid of it in the swamp. So chances of him getting away with this are pretty much zero. And the question for me becomes basically there's three options I see happening here. Well, there's four technically, but I really don't think the first one will be true. Number one, he gets away with it. Not a chance, not in my opinion. He has like a 0.01% chance. There's too much. He has no alibi. He's been missing. He's been behaving oddly. Despite his best efforts, people are going to notice that. Number two, he just gets caught and goes to juvenile hall or whatever, right? He's still young enough. I don't think he'd be like facing like the death penalty, but definitely being processed, never seeing his friends again, you know, for basically life. Not life, but like long enough where it won't matter. Number three, he gets identified as the most likely culprit, but they can't quite pin it on him. Meaning he's going to spend his entire life being watched, but his friends will know it was him. And maybe they won't be able to look at him straight anymore. And then four, he's seen as an enemy of the village because he took it into his own hands to complete the Onikakushi, like the Watanagashi killing, and thus he'll be vanished. Because I think that's also kind of like a pseudo-crime. Part of the reason why there's like the killing and then the vanishing, the reasoning being that a way to obscure like what's happening whenever somebody does a murder, the Watanagashi murder, the perpetrator is vanished because it keeps the mystery abounding, and thus we might be vanished ourselves because the Hinamizawa wants to protect itself. So that's kind of theory 4. That's probably what I think is going to actually happen. It would feel more in line with the story as itself. But enough speculation. Let's jump right in, shall we? The lights at home were dazzlingly bright. Suddenly, they reminded me of how hungry I was. I checked the clock and saw it was almost 7. I thought for sure it was 2 or 3 in the morning already. I was surprised at how messed up my biological clock had gotten just from this one night. That's true, actually. I'm genuinely shocked. It felt like it had been such a long evening. There was a warm light coming from the curtains of the living room window. The worlds between here and what were beyond those curtains were so different. If only that man hadn't shown up, I would have been in that light. I'd still be excited from the festival. I'd be talking to my parents about how much fun I'd have with all my friends. And then, even though they made the hot meal for me, I would have eaten way too much at the stalls, barely eaten any of it, and gone back to my room. No doubt I'd crawl to my futon and easily let myself fall asleep. But right now it was completely different. There wasn't a single ember of warmth from those weak street lights. Right now I was unconnected with any time spent with my family, and there were neither warm food nor the time to allow myself to sleep. My body exposed to the cold rain, I knew that I simply had to spur myself on to accomplish what I must. I realized how timid, how cowardly I was becoming. For what purpose did I need to kill someone so badly that it was worth feeling this terrible? I had lost sight of that purpose. I selected the faintest, most fundamental way of saving Satoko and executed it without hesitation. The man was dead. He was gone. He would never ever hurt Satoko again. We all thought frantically for days on end about Satoko's problem, and finally, with no options, we gave up. I had only solved it in one night, by myself, without anyone's help. Right about now, Satoko would be making dinner for her uncle, despite not knowing when he'd return, and she might be spending the night trembling in fear of whether he'd yell at her for how it tasted. But her uncle wouldn't come home. She wouldn't have to fear his wrath, nor let him make her feel sad. I see. I did it. It's actually like reality's kind of sinking in, I guess. I successfully saved Satoko. All I'd been thinking for about for a long time was killing that man, and I'd forgotten the feeling that it was actually all to save her.
Sokka.
He's freaking God. He's looping. He's loopy. I did something good. That's right. I did something good, didn't I? I felt hot tears coming from my eyes. And that's when I first realized the exhaustion I've been feeling was actually guilt. The blade of guilt, for a while now, had just been scraping away with its tip, hurting my heart. It hurt so bad I couldn't stand it. It was throbbing painfully. It hurt so much, I was so painful that I cried. I cried tears of joy at saving Satoko. I didn't know why, really, anymore. I just cried. My tears fell and fell. And as soon as I stood there for a while, coming to terms with those warm tears, my heart was comforted a little. All right, Keiichi Maribara. That's enough. There's nothing to regret or feel ashamed about. Both my body and mind went thoroughly exhausted, and that was a fact. It was only natural I couldn't feel anything. Even tomorrow and the day after that, I might not be able to feel anything for a while. But there was one thing that was true. There was this indisputable fact that I had saved Satoko. One day, we would surely be rewarded. One day, I would be proud of how distressed an enterprise I had undertaken to get Satoko's smile back. And so that I could wait for that day, I had to put the finishing touches on this night. If I left it undone, everything I'd accomplished today would be for naught. I looked back up at the sky, which didn't look like it would stop raining anytime soon. Then I rubbed my eyes and summoned forth energy from my core once again. How long did I plan on spacing out? This isn't the time for daydreaming. Someone could find that corpse this very moment. That pessimistic thought was proof the very natural emotion of fear had returned to me. As I allowed the fear to spur me onwards, I went on to look for the shovel and the lantern inside the storage room. It was fortunate. I remembered what it looked like around the street light and the light the body was near. With how dark it was quite possible I wouldn't be able to look for it either. Interesting. So the street light, it's near. So he ended up near the street light. Would this happen to be the same street light that Tomataka-san would be like where his corpse tended to be found? I didn't realize that when I left the place, so the idea of memorizing the spot hadn't even crossed my mind. And that's why I had to call it fortunate I managed to get back to the body like this. The corpse was now located in a big muddy puddle. Half the thing had already sunk into the swamp-like pool of water. I only realized afterward, but there was an unused irrigation channel right nearby, clogged with fallen leaves and dirt. And there was rainwater flowing in from there. My shoes had been awash with water for a long time now, so without any hesitation, I stepped into the puddle. Luckily, the whole muddy stream washed it all away. I couldn't leave any slight traces, like bloodstains. The rain was like a blessing from heaven. I checked around me, paying very close attention, and turned the lantern off. It became pitch black, but my eyes got used to the darkness in a few moments, and once I managed to reach the street light on the other side, I was able to make out even faint lights. I stuck the shovel in the puddle right next to the corpse. The ground was even looser here than I'd thought, and the shovel's tip easily slid inside it. I had to hurry and dig. If it took too much time, I might lose my energy and strength again. Felt almost like digging a hole at the sand of the beach. It was easy to dig, but no matter what, the muddy water kept flowing in, covering the hole. The digging wasn't going as well as I'd hoped. I dug and dug, and the water would go in, so I couldn't get a sense of how deep it was. The only way for me to measure was to bury my own foot in the mud. I'm digging just fine. It's alright, don't be disheartened. Dig, dig, dig. Occasionally, a car would come by the road, and I'd hurry and hide myself in the trees. Everyone was only passing, though. They wouldn't have their eyes peeled in this kind of darkness. I understood it logically, but I still couldn't help but hide. What I was really scared of wasn't quite that one of those cars would coincidentally would have witnessed me here. It was the distance I could spot the cars was getting gradually shorter. At first, I noticed the splashing sounds from really far away as cars drove through them. I started noticing them less and less with each car that just passed by. I didn't notice until the headlights were upon me. I felt my senses growing duller by the second. If someone were to take a peek in secret as I was burying the body at the worst possible time, maybe I wouldn't even notice. The moment I thought that, I took a good look all around me. I roused my half-asleep senses and searched for signs of a presence nearby. What if I found out someone was spying on me from the trees? A carnivorous feeling snarled at me, glaring. If there was, then I'd dig another hole. Fetch, he's just gone killer mode. I'd come this far already. In order to achieve perfection, I didn't care how much more I had to pay. I didn't know what kind of face I was making at the time, but it was definitely a fervently glaring one. It's going frickin' Gollum mode. My 5 senses reached that conclusion. Then nobody was present. I didn't breathe a sigh of relief. How long had I been digging the mud out of here? It was deep enough for it to go up to my knees. Maybe this was enough? Maybe I'd throw the corpse in as a test. I swallowed, getting my breathing under control. Despite how much I'd beaten him, I was afraid of touching the corpse. So instead, I dragged it by the feet to the hole. It took more than just a wiggle and a tug to do it. But of course it did. Considering the man's weight was easily 80 kilograms, I rallied all my strength and dragged him. At this point, the groundless fears that he might suddenly start moving again had vanished long ago. His body fit perfectly into the muddy hole. It was more than deep enough. Alright, let's bury him. Quickly, quickly, quickly. If I did a perfect job burying it here, everything would be over. I would hide it in the hole. None of this would ever have happened. God, so unbelievably optimistic. It's his curse, though. He's always like this. When I realized I only had a little further to go to finish everything, I was racked with pointless anxiety, like I was in a race against time. It was like I was absorbed in a delusion that if I didn't bury the body quickly, it might come back to life. In any case, in a great rush, I poured mud and dirt into the hole. If I didn't work efficiently, someone might find me here. Until now, I figured that if someone saw, I'd just kill them, but not anymore. I was arrested with such an absolute fear that if someone saw me, it would all be over. As I finished the work off, it was a total mess. Splish, splash, squish, squash. I drew the surface of the shovel across the ground, trying to make it flat. I was completely covered in mud at this point. The rain washed the mud off my body, but not off my now blackened clothing. My body and mind were caked in panic, with fear, with rain and sweat and mud. Yeah, like, obviously, he didn't anticipate the rain, but regardless of that, like, one thing he should have done is completely have a change of clothes. Like, he should have pre-packed a change of clothes that he could change into after everything was done, and that he could, like, get rid of. Obviously, ideally would be burning it, but if he couldn't do that, he could have tossed it into the swamp, like, tied it into a bag of filled it with rocks and chucked it in or something, because now he goes home, what are his parents going to think? My shoulders heaving, I threw down the shovel and sat down in the mud. I was so exhausted, I wanted to lie down right here and sleep. It was over. This time, for real, it was over. The man was now in the bottom of a wet dirt. Right at this moment, there were traces that this place had been dug up, but the rain, when flowing mud water, would completely cover it within moments. Go get your shovel! Yes, it was over. Yatta. Yatta. And then I fell over backward, face up in the mud. Raindrops pelted my face without mercy, but I didn't care. After staying there for a while, resting my mind, I got up again. It was over. So let's go home. You already buried the whole thing. Now it's like it never happened. It never happened. There's no reason for me to stay out here and get rained on. I wobbled to my feet. I wouldn't use the shovel anymore. I considered disassembling it, but I didn't have the strength in my absolute exhaustion. I didn't really need to take it apart anyway. Dragging the shovel behind me, I headed toward the light. I stood up my bike that had been laying in the grass by the road. I didn't know how I was getting the still assembled shovel in the front of the basket. I put the shovel down the back of my shirt like I'd done with the baseball bat. Unlike the bat, the corners of it on my back made it very painful. Plus, if I relaxed my posture even a little, it would fall out behind me. What about your other shovel? I ended up having to carry the shovel in my left hand, riding my bike using only my right hand. Not only was I in a state of total exhaustion, this was a downpour. One hand on the handlebars. I was swaying to and fro like a drunk, but I didn't care. Even swaying like this, I got a little closer to home every time I pedaled. I saw two lights swaying slowly in front of me. A car was approaching. Oh no, I need to get out of the way. Far away in the shadows of the darkness, a car appeared. And he's gonna be seen covered in dirt with a shovel in his hand. Good. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's driving me crazy. And the dazzling lights washed over me. The driver made a short honk of the horn to inform me I was in the middle of the road. I have to get out of the way. I kept telling myself that, but not only was I riding one-handed, I was exhausted, so I couldn't do anything. Wobble, 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 wobble. I meandered about, not going to the right nor to the left. The driver decided to swerve out of the way right in front of me, and without lowering its speed much, steadily came towards me. Its outline grew larger in my vision, and telling myself that I really needed to get out of the way, I jerked the handlebars one direction, lost my balance, and fell over, bike and all. It's gonna be like it's gonna be the police, isn't it? My whole body splayed out, one foot got caught in the bike. This was seriously bad. My drowsiness quickly vanished, and just as cold sweat broke out on my skin. The driver recklessly spun the wheel to the left, made a counterclockwise U-turn, and came right up to me and stopped. The driver's seat door opened, the driver came out. You idiot, what are you doing here? I was pretty sure someone would yell at me like that. Oh, now that is a surprise. What? It was a woman's voice, and one I knew. I lifted my face off the ground a little and looked at her.
Takano-san.
What? This is really bizarre. You're still alive. Okay, why are you saying that phrase? Isn't that supposed to be like the flirty phrase? It was raining far too hard to see the moon. Takano-san unfolded the umbrella and smiled as she spoke. That smile was for some reason uncanny, like she'd seen right through me. Out of all the people I could have met, I got this sudden feeling this was the one I wanted to see the least. So Oh gosh, she'd come here via her car. She wouldn't have known what I was just doing. Yeah, but... And yet she smiled as though she knew everything. Calm down, Keiichi Maribara. She always makes that mysterious-looking smile, remember? Don't let her do anything. Don't let her onto anything, lest you dig your own grave. What? What is that? I should tell a good lie here. If I could just do that, things would work out. Actually, that's not a bad one. They'd be like, well, I tried to wait it out, but I'm getting too tired, so I just decided to go for it. No. See, no, like, I think the idea of, like the best lie he could have said there would be like, well, I tried to wait it out. I was hoping it wouldn't be for very long. Because, like, obviously different areas have different types of weather, but, like, having grown up somewhere very similar in, like, ecology and weather patterns to Japan, it's not too uncommon to have very, like flash rains where they kind of come out of nowhere, downpours for a few minutes or even maybe half an hour, and then suddenly just be gone. So, like, it would actually be reasonable for someone to be like, oh, I'll just try and wait it out for a bit. And then it doesn't work, and it starts getting late, and you get really tired, and you're like, well, I just gotta go for it. So you start riding home. Like, that could have worked. Well, fudge. Takano-san was clearly aware of something exceedingly abnormal was happening with me, and she'd played her little word games. She was enjoying driving me into a corner. Maybe she had a vague guess, just from the situation, of what I'd been doing. The timing really sucked to run into her of all people at all times. At the very end, I could only be frustrated with my terrible luck. I'd done so much, and the end was literally right around the corner. So why at the very end did I run into her of all people? What did you do? What did you do, Keiichi Maribara? You're still holding something that could be a dangerous weapon. Will you silence Takano-san? Oh my gosh, is he actually thinking about it? Even if it would be simpler to kill Takano-san, dealing with the car she'd come in afterwards would be an issue. I couldn't drive a car. It was completely different from a motorbike. But even if the car were here, as long as there were no proof I killed her, Yeah, and tonight's downpour with any prior planning, all by coincidence, a hit and run. As long as I didn't drop any handkerchief with my initials on them, they would never know I killed her. A black flame quietly smoldered and raged in the core of my body.
怖い顔いじめすぎちゃったかしら
Takano-san started to laugh by herself, then thankfully stopped talking about it. But the dark clouds of my mind didn't go away.
それはそうといつまで自転車にまたがったまま地面に這いつくばってるつもりそろそろどいてくれるかしら
If I moved, she would leave. So I tried to get the bicycle up and out of the way, but then twisted my ankle in it and fell over. There was a sharp pain in my ankle I twisted. This is nonsense. A sprained ankle now?
あら大丈夫ひょっとしてひねっちゃった
Takano-san squats down and takes a good look at the ankle I kept rubbing. She compares it to my facial expression, apparently trying to gauge how badly the wound was.
立てる
I didn't expect to, but I couldn't even stand up. It was all I could do to shamelessly wiggle around on the ground like a caterpillar. Takano-san looked at her watch, then at her car, and after thinking for a moment, opened the passenger seat door. And then gave me her shoulder to stab it up with.
家まで送るわなんだか私が跳ねたみたいで嫌な気持ちだけどね
すみません
見捨てるのも気の毒だし私が優しい人でよかったわね
Isn't she also a nurse? Nobody good has ever called themselves a nice person, but that would have been a terrible thing to say to someone holding me up like this. I took Takano's hand and sat down in the passenger seat. Takano-san went around the back and looked at my bike on the ground.
自転車は後日ってことにはならない
I could clearly tell from her face that she thought it would be a pain since it would be heavy and would get her car dirty. But my bike had the name Mayabara written on it. I couldn't leave it out here like this.
そのなんとか車に詰めませんかないと困るんで
トランクはもういっぱいなの後部座席なんかに積んだらシートが泥で汚れちゃうわまああなたを乗せた時点でもう十分に汚れてるんだけれども
It is a pain cleaning the inside of a car. I turned back to see and see someone's I see someone's folded bicycle there already. I still looked big enough to fit my bike in there as well. My expression reflected my thoughts. The exact thoughts seemed to get through to her.
わかったわわかったわ積んであげる
So wait, where's Tomataka-san? And why do you have a bike? Like it's feeling weird now. Like did she also do something tonight?
今夜だけはお姉さんも優しくしてあげるわ
Gosh, she's creepy. Takano-san continued with her mean jokes, but she hoisted my bike and loaded it into the back seat for me. The mean jokes were one thing, but couldn't she do something about the eerie smile of hers? And even more importantly than the bike, I didn't want to leave the shovel here. The shovel could be directly connected to burying a body and me.
ついでで申し訳ないんですけどシャベルもお願いしていいですか
You seem oddly cognizant of the risk of leaving a shovel behind now, despite the fact you've already left another shovel behind. Takano-san gave me a clearly dubious expression.
シャベル別にいいけど大事なもの
I wouldn't say it's important. They just feel like it's my dad's. I don't want to lose it. The more I talk, the worse it gets for me. That's how it felt, so I didn't force myself to answer her. God, it's even worse. It'd be like, look, it's my dad's. Like, he'll yell at me if I lose it, especially on the side of the road. Eventually, outlasted by my silence, Takano-san gave a short shrug and sighed.
はいはいわかったわ僕はシャベルがないと困っちゃうんでしょそんな怖い目しなくてもいいわよ
Takano-san brought over the shovel that was lying in the middle of the road. I clutched it like I'd never let it go again. Takano-san watched me with a puzzled look.
じゃ行くわよ前原くんのお家ってあの前原屋敷でいいんでしょ
Funny how that works out, yes.
なんでみんなうちのことを前原屋敷って呼ぶんですか
だって現にお屋敷じゃないお金持ちが羨ましいわ
As she spoke, Takano-san pulled out a handbrake and stepped on the gas. After making a skillful U-turn using the shoulder of the road, she steadily increased in speed. From the rearview mirror, that accursed place seemed to melt into the darkness.
られた？
すみません。よく聞こえませんでした。今、なんて？
Takano-san suddenly tried to say something to me, but thoughtlessly I didn't catch it. Looking ahead, Takano-san said the same thing one more time.
死体、
What?
上手に埋められた？
Well, what are you talking about? I thought my heart might beat out of my chest, but I didn't let it show. Oh, are you sure? But my lungs are squeezed tight and I couldn't breathe.
何を言ってるんですか？
こういう山奥に死体を埋めるときはね、結構深く掘らないと野犬とかが匂いを嗅ぎつけて掘り返しちゃうことも多いのよ。
That's an angle I didn't talk about last time, but that's very true. Like, I was talking about how, like, if you don't bury it deep, it'd be discoverable by, like, smeller dogs. But she's also got the other side of the angle. Like, wild animals will find it, dig it up, and start running around with it, which will just make it even worse.
野犬が加えてた人骨で事件が発覚。警察一帯を山狩りへなんて結構ないことじゃないのよ。
Pound, pound, clang, clang. Huge rustling bells started ringing in my head. Had I buried it so deep that I could say absolutely wouldn't be found? The answer was no. I was in such a rush to bury him and get it over with, I couldn't deny having possibly buried it too close to the surface. No, wait. That's not, anyway. This woman, how does she know? She had just passed by here in her car by coincidence. And we ran into each other by coincidence. She had been watching the entire thing from the trees, and once I left, she came back to her car. That didn't make logical sense. So then why? Keiichi Maribara, that's it. You need to kill her. My entire body reawakened, and I could feel my pupils dilate. I couldn't possibly beat her to death with a shovel in such a small car. Then I would use my hands and strangle her. You're talking pretty bold for someone with a sprained ankle. But she was driving right now. If I strangled her, we might get into an accident. Then suddenly Takano-san turned and looked at me.
ボケもツッコミもなし？
For a moment I was surprised. What was she talking about?
私たちあんまり相性は良くないみたいね。
Takano-san said, disappointed, returning her gaze ahead. I repeated the words she'd said a few times in my head and finally realized she meant it as an off-color joke. I didn't know whether it was really a joke, but I wouldn't be able to fool her no matter how many lies I told. Right now, with her driving a car like this, I couldn't kill her. I would have an even harder time doing it when we got back to my house. That moment we met had been my best chance. And I'd missed it so easily it hurt. He's regretting he didn't just kill her on sight. That's what a world we're in. After that, Takano-san didn't say a single word. The car was completely buried in almost suffocating silence. What kind of woman had I run into? Yeah, I know, right? With everything happening today, I managed to pull it off, and at the very end of it all, I just had to go home and go back to sleep. What bad luck. Yeah, it's gonna be super bad, because if, like, she's still around, and the cops do find a corpse there, and they start inquiring, she can be a perfect witness. Covered in mud, with a shovel. As the sleepiness gradually overtook me, the anxiety I felt steadily started to matter less and less. Is this alright, Keiichi Maribara? You probably should not leave this woman alive. Right now, I'm tired. She stepped on the brakes and I jerked against my seatbelt. That woke me up. I thought I must have fallen asleep by accident. I looked out the window and there was a building with faint lights on. It was really dark out, but I knew immediately it was my home.
今ご家族を呼んでくるわね。少しの間だけど一人でお留守番できるかしら？
バカにしないでください。それにほら、もう大丈夫です。一人で歩けますから。
あらあら、さっきは痛そうな顔して肩まで借りたのに、ひょっとしてお姉さんに甘えてみたかったから？
Sure. As Takano-san spoke, she left the car and opened up her umbrella. The sound of falling raindrops was fierce as always. I carefully reached down to rub the ankle I'd twisted. There was still some pain and a little weirdness, but they weren't that bad anymore. Rather than being happy about how light the wound was, I first regretted this whole thing. If I hadn't twisted my ankle, I could have still taken the option of killing Takano-san right then and there. There probably wasn't much doubt that Takano-san was convinced I was involved in some sort of crime. If she knew about everything happening with Satoko, then she might have even guessed I'd killed somebody. Click. Takano-san opened the passenger side door for me.
本当に肩は必要ないかしら？もう一回だけ甘えてもいいのよ。
I ignored her, answered by getting out of my car myself. The rain was still pretty intense. I got my bicycle out of the back seat. I was a bit curious of whether the other bike belonged to, but that didn't matter right now. I let Takano-san hold the umbrella over me, then pushed my bicycle up to the front door.
ありがとうございます。
What about your shovel, dude? The shovel that you were so important.
もうここまでで大丈夫です。
My ankle hurt so much earlier, and if it still did, but it aggravated me that I hadn't even been that bad. It was really seriously terrible luck.
じゃあ、私はこれで失礼するわね。
Shovel!
前原くんと二人きりで夜のドライブだったなんて。みんな特に二郎さんにはね。
Why? Jiro-san? Oh, she meant Tomatake-san. I suppose she calls him by his first name. His full name must be Jiro Tomatake then. And then the other bike, the folding one in the back seat that I didn't care about at first, suddenly came to mind. Hey, excuse me, you're from Hinamizawa, right? On the day before yesterday, as I walked to the dam and near half asleep, Tomatake-san had talked to me. And the bicycle he'd been riding, it was...
あの後ろに積んであった自転車、富武さんのですよね。
Oh. Might we accidentally have crossed paths as mutuals, both being about our work, and thus she won't say anything, and we won't say anything, and nothing will be known. Takano-san's eyes, I think they sharpened for a moment.
どうしてそう思うのかしら？
以前に会った時見てますから、フレームも特徴的でしたし。
でもおかしくないかしら。この自転車が二郎さんのものだなんてことあり。
おかしいって。
Takano-san, her hair elegantly fluttering, peered into my eyes.
だってひなみ沢には民宿なんてないのよ。なら二郎さんは町に泊まっていることになるわよね。
そうなんですか？まあ、そうならそうなんじゃないですか？
町からひなみ沢まではとても歩いてなんか行き来できないわよね。バスだって走ってないし。
Right.
せめて自転車くらいはなきゃね。
She didn't need to tell me that. That's why Jiro-san was riding a bike.
その二郎さんの自転車が二郎さんは私の車に乗っていないなら
Yeah.
おかしいじゃない。
I said that from the very beginning. I was like, yeah, where's Tomatake-san? It's kind of odd that he's not here. And I was like, the bike, it's probably his. But now it's like super sinister. It's like, oh no,
二郎さんはひなみ沢で自転車なしってことになっちゃうわよ。二郎さんを放っておいて、自転車だけが私の車に積んであるなんてね。ありえないでしょう。
As she spoke, Takano-san made eyes like a hawk. Unfortunately, I didn't really understand what was so odd.
それの何がおかしいんですか？高野さんは富武さんとは仲がいいんですよね。何かのようで自転車を積んであげたって別におかしいことだとは思わないですけれど。
そうじゃないでしょう。つまりこのひなみ沢において二郎さんとその自転車がバラバラに存在することはありえないということなのよ。
She did say the trunk was full, didn't she? So that's the thing is, what if they're not in different places? What if he actually is there? He's just in the trunk. Why would he be in the trunk? Why?
以上の理由からこの自転車が二郎さんのものであるわけがない。理解できたかしら？
Takano-san's roundabout way of talking was hard to comprehend, but that eeriness I could feel, the vagueness, the vague dreadfulness. I didn't like it at all. But the most wild, instinctive part of me warned me not to pry.
あれは私の自転車なのよ。二郎さんに選んでもらったからセンスが似てるのは間違いないけれどね。
あ、そうだったんですか。道理で似てると。
私とあなたは今夜出会わなかった。
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I get the picture. I get the picture, creepy lady. What the fetch? I did not think this was going to be a plot point. Holy crap. And now she's talking about something completely different.
何を言ってるんですか？
私とあなたは
She's like,
今夜
she's.
出会わなかった。
I wonder if she's going to keep the shovel as leverage. She'd be like, look, you never saw me. I never saw you. If you happen to say you saw me, I happen to have this shovel. I don't think you want people seeing you have this shovel. Holy crap. She freaking murdered him. What? That can't, like, that's insane. Like, has she been a part of this the whole time for him? Or is it just this particular version where she decided to take out her boyfriend? I stayed there, not knowing what to say, and Takano-san repeated her eerie, succinct phrase to me again.
私とあなたは今夜私とあなたは出会わなかった。
Something cold and unpleasant crawled up my spine. I knew because I'd killed a person with my own hands before. Before I came to that conclusion, that I only had one chance to beat this woman to death to keep her quiet, and I couldn't hesitate, so I could tell she'd arrived to the very same conclusion. My instincts warned me again. I wish I'd never met this woman. The faint sense, like a rotten smell drifting from this woman, was no doubt the exact same sense that I was giving off right now. The very peculiar aspiration, the lack of uncertainty at taking a human's life for a purpose, one that only those who have risen above everything had. Actually, maybe I should have called it nausea. It meant, and I didn't know how to explain this very well, but Takano-san was the same as me. In other words, someone who shouldn't have been here. Someone I couldn't have let anyone know was here. Someone who nobody would have wanted to see. And now that we could calmly pretend as though we'd never met. Yes. Which meant that, just like I wanted to have nothing else to do with her, she didn't want anything to do with me either. And she too wanted to make it so that we'd never met. Both of us wished for the same thing. Our desires were the same, which meant Tomitaka-san's suggestion was extremely practical. And that I couldn't outright refuse.
それでいいなら、そういうことでもいいです。俺と高野さんは今夜出会わなかった。
そうよね。あなたにとってもその方がいいでしょうから。
どうしてそう思うんですか？
いちいちうるさいね。それくらい自分で考えられないの、坊や。
She cut me off with a condescending word, boy, right in front of my house in a place most unsuited to killing. And yet there was a frozen thirst for blood coming from both of us. I would be killed right here, right now. Yeah, then I should definitely have beaten her while we passed each other. A damp, greasy sweat broke out on my body. That's fine. You want me, then you can come any time. And when I make my mind up, she shook her head elegantly and turned on her heel.
よかったわね。私が優しい人で。
What was good? How? She's kind because she didn't murder him? She could have, well, to be fair, she could have just run him down. Because she was a kind person? What, was that it? I didn't get it. Takano-san got into her car. We didn't exchange any words of parting. I had performed a massive feat, the killing of Satoko's uncle, and yet I didn't feel any accomplishment. On the holy night of Oyashiro-sama's curse, on which the taking of another's life was allowed. On the terrible rainy night when the demons wandered as agents of Oyashiro-sama's will. The demons were never supposed to meet, but suddenly they did. The demons parted ways triumphantly. There was no reason for them to fight. Both their objectives had been accomplished. With the rain hitting me like a waterfall, my eyes met with Takano-san's through the car window. The female demon, her mouth twisted into a distorted, fearless smile. It was too late to kill her. Far too late. That first moment, the very first moment we saw each other, had been my best chance. And now that we'd parted like this, I was acutely aware of it. I should not have let her live. Oh, fetch me. Again, where's the shovels? She beeped her horn quickly. Then her car drove away in the deluge. The one woman who knew what really happened tonight disappeared into the dark. As long as she was alive, the night would never really end. Just get into an accident, I thought to myself. In this downpour, slip on some mud or something, fly face first into a tree and die. That wasn't a delusion, a wild flight of fancy. It was the earnest wish, yes. It was a command. Die. Die! And keep your mouth shut for eternity. Because I had no doubt you're wishing for me to die all the same. My curse upon her faded emptily as Takano-san's tail lights disappeared into the utter darkness. Her car's lights were completely out of sight now. Even the sound of the engine faded into the sound of heavy rain and was inaudible now. I too turned on my heel to draw the curtains on this insane night. To open my front door and end it all. I began walking towards the front door. I was covered in mud, made a squishing sound with every step I took. Squish, squish. Don't worry, Keiichi Maribara. Squish, squish. She'll die. Squish, squish. Her end will be as miserable as she is. I'll throw her into some flames alive and let her dance until she's burned to a crisp. I'll burn her to ashes in the fires of hell itself until she's roasted as much as she deserves.
そう願うぜ。本気でな。
Oh, squish. Huh? Just now, I hadn't taken a step. And yet, a footstep. Without emotion, I turned around. If there was a footprint that wasn't my own, and it was obviously someone else was behind me. Was somebody else there? I was sick of this. Whoever it was, I was sick of everything tonight. This time I would kill them. I'd kill them without a second thought. I wouldn't hesitate to turn around and dig another hole. But fortunately, there was no one there. I wasn't going to have to kill any more people tonight. This night, I couldn't handle any more of it. Even if I heard an extra footstep each time I stopped, I put it down to me just being tired. So he's like taking a step and there was another step right behind him. And maybe that's supposed to be like Ogashiro-sama, like following in his wake. I don't know what that means! What does it mean? Oh, fetch. Okay, we're gonna read these tips. Taking extra steps. Yeah, no, that everything went so south. I'll go through the details in a second, but let's read all the new tips. Fire from hell.
はい、もしもし。救急ですか？消防ですか？
消防です。
火事ですか？事故ですか？落ち着いて話してください。
多分火事だと思います。こちらは中部高速の柿内サービスエリアなんですけどね。裏の山からなんだかすっごい火と煙が上がってるのが見えるんですよ。
Oh, interesting. Is this supposed to be like the vanishing for Toмотaka-san? So is that the whole idea? Is that she kills Toмотaka-san, but then she gets vanished? Like that was the plan. That was the plan in the first story, and it seemed to happen in the second story because they broke into the warehouse, right? And that's happening again. But why does she kill Toмотaka-san? Like that's what I don't understand, is why is she motivated to do the killing, and then why she vanished for it? Because I think this is supposed to be her vanishing, where they like put her in the cage where they like roasted her, right?
あんなところ誰も立ち入らないからなんで火がついてるのかよくわかんないですけど、とにかく連絡した方がいいと思って。山火事にならないとも限らないし。
わかりました。すぐに現場を確認しますので、そちら様のお名前とすぐに連絡のつく電話番号、それから火災現場の詳細な場所をお願いします。
消防司令部より通達。G ブロック西側山斜面にて不審火の通報あり。街道から離れていることからカップルの焚き火か不法投棄のゴミに放火したかの可能性があります。現場は深い森林地帯。周辺に民家はないが延焼の可能性あり。直ちに現場を確認されたし。
消防署ですか。こちらは G ブロック第3消防分隊です。通報の現場にさっき到着。ドラム缶が一つ山中に放棄され、火は鎮火しつつあり、延焼の可能性はなし。で、そのドラム缶の中に多分人じゃないかと思うんです。 人らしきものが灯油か何かで焼かれたという感じで、
Yeah.
その警察の人にも連絡した方がいいんじゃないかと思いまして。
You think?
間違いねえよ。これ人だよ。
Okay. Well, fetch me, victim of the 5th year.
今年のたたりってことっすかね。
そういうことになるんですかね。毎年いろんな殺し方を見せてくれますが、今年は特に際立っていますね。
自分で自分の喉をかき破るなんて、
So it is
普
him.
通じゃないっす。
あとは鑑識のじいさまに任せましょう。きっと何かの怪しげな薬物を検出してくれるに違いありません。
お疲れ様です。お疲れ様です。
ああ、大石さん、小宮山さんたちが到着しました。
大石さん、お疲れ様です。今年は一頭来てるのが出たらしいじゃないですか。
All right, so they're pronouncing his name. They're dropping like the last vowel sound, which I know you can do occasionally, but I do not understand like the rules of like when you do or don't do it. But instead of saying oishi, they're saying oish. Oish-san. Maybe they're dropping it because they're putting the honorific there. And oishi is like kind of like very mouthfully, very like oishi. Like, and maybe that's too close to another real world word too. Like that could be a factor, is like oishi and oishi because tonal is so powerful. I just don't know. I want to know. I want to know how to speak Japanese. That'd be cool.
裏を書かれました。私はてっきり今夜死ぬのは北条哲平だとばかり思ってたんですがね。
仏は何者です？
富武二郎。年に何回かひなみ沢に来てる趣味の写真家さんです。
Like I was like, he was so sure with Teppei, but Teppei's gonna go missing.
ノーマークだったな。
どうなんでしょうね。北条宅にずっと張り付いてたのがバレて、ターゲットを変更したとか。
Wait, but they were watching the whole time. Then wouldn't someone have seen like him drive off into the woods?
かなあ。恨めったな。
で、北条哲平の方は何も問題なし。
ねえ、夕方頃に娘が祭りに出かけて、その少し後にバイクで出かけまして、先に娘が帰ってきて、あれまだ帰ってないかな？どっかで飲んだくれてるのかな？
大石さんいらっしゃいますか？高杉課長からです。1号車の無線にお願いします。
Oh, that's not voting well. Alright. We're gonna go ahead and end things here, obviously. Oh boy. Yeah, we're in trouble now. But yeah, it feels like we've got another piece of the mystery. So the person who it looks like kills Tomitake-san, at least the major person involved, is his girlfriend, which is really bizarre. But it, like the fact that things played out the exact same way, with like the whole like ripping your own throat out thing, it's very much in line with what was in the first one. And then her being vanished, where she was taken up into the mountains and burned. The first chapter, it was just seemed like she just disappeared. But in the second one, and now the third one, she's discovered being burned in a big oil drum in a mountain, like a few prefectures away, or like at least like a distance away. But then we have the new addition of Keiichi's involvement in this one, and that's going to be a problem, because that's absolutely, like, I'm sure they found him, because unfortunately digging, like, so the big trouble you're going to run into with digging in the mountain too, like where he's trying to pick, so like, yeah, the water obviously helps because it softens the ground and makes it like kind of wash away stuff, but the downsides being that you take this freshly churned earth, put a corpse into it, and then cover it up with like waterlogged earth. Most of that's going to start getting just washed away immediately because it's been turned. It's not like heavily compacted in any way, and so there's a good chance that after the torrential rain, that he was just laying in a depression in a pit right next to the road. And so, like, not only would it be like, oh, like, there's a corpse here, but there's clearly someone tried to bury it. And then all they have to do is find the person who would be motivated to do it, who has no alibi for it, and who might be around or associated with shovels. It's like, gosh darn it, it's gonna be so easy. If they find the corpse, it's so easy to trace it back to Keiichi. It's not even, like, funny. So, yeah, like, I think he's screwed. I think he's screwed. I think the next chapter is going to be the last chapter, and it's going to be about him being caught and interrogated and taken in. Yeah. Dang. That sucks. But, oh well. We'll see how it plays out next week. Thanks for your patience with this one. Hope you enjoyed. That was creepy. I did not expect that twist of Takano-san being so directly involved in things. Her finding us, making the threats, ultimately being the one who's apparently responsible for Jiro going missing, for Tomitaka-san for dying, but then somehow she getting spirited away right afterward. It's like she went through with it, but the village knew, and they purposely get rid of her. Like, I don't understand that part of the logic yet. That to me is still very strange. I want to know why she was allowed to do the murder, especially in like that way with the strange like drugs, because again, we see what those drugs kind of are in the first chapter. They make you go mad. They tried to put it in Keiichi, and eventually he did get hit with it. That was how the first chapter ended. So why did she have access to that? If that's kind of like the Hinamizawa special, you could say. And then why wouldn't she be punished or vanished? Again, like the only theory I can think of why they would do that is that you vanish the perpetrator to erase like the evidence, right? To make it so that there's no direct traceability, that the first murder can stick. It makes it still seem mysterious. So what's going on with all of that? So interesting. We'll have to see. I'm very curious to see what we learned this episode, but Takano being involved in Tomitaka-san's murder is probably the most important tidbit we've seen in this chapter so far. There's other interesting things we've learned, but that I think is the most significant piece of news. Like the most significant, it changes a lot of the dynamics of what I was wondering was going on around the original mystery. So I'm gonna be definitely like chewing on that one. But anyway, we're all done here. Thank you so much for joining me, especially the patrons and members. Your support of the channel is wonderful. I'm trying to utilize it as best I can to make sure that the channel keeps like up to speed, to afford like getting occasional art for the channel and more content for the channel. So thank you so much for your direct support. And to anybody who's just watching, thank you so much for being here. It means the world to me, and it's so important. If you like these kinds of videos, this channel is a great channel to use your hype on. It's a strictly, I've done a little digging into it. It's strictly mobile. If you're on a mobile phone and you like a video, you build up hype points. And then when you're on your mobile device, if you watch a video specifically, I think the channel has to meet certain criteria. Like I think it has to have less than like maybe like 500,000 subscribers or something. But if they have less than a certain account, you can use your hype to on the video. And what it does is it boosts the video or the series in the algorithm. It's basically just kind of you saying, hey, I like this smaller content creator, I want to support them. And by tying it to the like system, it ties it to how much you interact with like YouTube the content. So it's supposed to help cut down on botting and stuff, I think, which is pretty cool, especially for smaller channels like me, because I feel like that's going to be one of the ways that I could actually see success. So if you like these types of series or there's a specific video that you really like, not just for me, but for any small creator, like all you have to do is on your mobile device, you kind of go to the top of where the comments would be, and there's like a little sub menu you can slide, and it's like 2 or 3 windows, and one of them is like hype, and it says like hype this video up. If you put that down, it actually makes a difference, it seems. Again, I'm not sure if I can trace it too specifically, but I have seen confirmation on other channels that the hype does seem to help, and there are some flags that indicate whether someone's been hyping your video, like you see how many hype points it's got. So again, just worth considering. But I'm not here to beg for your attention or anything, just kind of an interesting mechanic. Regardless, thank you so much, and until next video, watching me, ever see me next, I'll see you there.